Hello everyone and welcome back to Law Statistics. Today's presentation is based on a very significant topic, that is the case analysis of a very famous case of Keshwananda Bharati versus State of Kerala. So let's move towards the introduction part. The Keshwananda Bharati case was popularly known as the fundamental rights case and also the serious conflict between the judiciary and the government. Under this case, Supreme Court of India outlined the basic structure doctrine of the Constitution, which forms and gives basic powers to the Indian judiciary to review or to amend the provisions of the Constitution enacted by the Parliament of India, which conflict with or seek to alter the basic structure of the Constitution. Basically, the question which was discussed here was whether the power to amend the constitution is unlimited or there is identifiable parameters regarding powers to amend the constitution. Holding of the case, there are certain principles within the framework of Indian constitution which are inviolable and hence cannot be amended by the parliament. These principles were commonly termed as the basic structure. Now let's move towards the facts of the case. In February 1970, Swami H. Sri Keshwananda Bharati, senior head of Edneer Mutt, a Hindu mutt arranged in Endir, a town in Kasaragod region of Kerala, challenged that the Kerala government endeavours under the two state land reform acts to force limitations on the administration of its property. Furthermore, in the case it was held that despite of the fact that the state conjured its power under Article 21, an Indian legal scholar, Nanaboy Palkhiwala, persuaded Swami into filing his petition of under Article 26 concerning the privilege to oversee religiously claimed property without government obstruction. The enormous battle was foreseen. Real revisions to the constitution, that is the 24th, 25th, 26th and 29th amendment, had been sanctioned by Indira Gandhi's legislature through parliament to get over the judgment of the preeminent court in R.C. Kapoor, Madhavrao Shinde and Golaknath. The first had struck down the bank nationalization, the second has the nullification of privy schedules of previous rulers, and the third had held that the revising force couldn't touch principal rights. Moreover, every one of these corrections was under test in Keshwanand. Since Golaknath was chosen by 11 judges, a bigger seat was required to test its rightness. Thus, 13 judges were to sit on the Keshwanand case. Despite the fact that the hearing expended 5 months, the result would significantly influence India's popularity-based procedures. Series of this case: Shankari Prasad versus Union of India, the case of 1951. The sacred legitimacy of First Amendment, which shortened the privilege to property, was tested. The Supreme Court decided out that ability to revise the Constitution under Article 368. Likewise, incorporated the ability to change basic rights, and the law in Article 13 Clause 8 includes only an ordinary law made in exercise of authoritative powers and thus exclude sacred correction. In Sajjan Singh versus State of Rajasthan, the case of 1965, the validity of the 17th Amendment Act 1964 changed the definition of a state given in Article 31A of the Constitution so as to include therein lands held under Rohitri settlement in addition to other lands in respect of which provisions are normally made in land reform enactments. The amendment also added 44 additional state enactments related to land reform in the 9th schedule. In the Golaknath versus State of Punjab, the case of 1961, the Honorable Supreme Court prospectively overruled its decision in Shankari Prasad and Sajjan Singh cases and held that Parliament had no power to amend Part 3rd of the Indian Constitution so as to abridge or take away any of the fundamental rights. It also added that Article 368 merely lays down the procedure for the purpose of amendment. Furthermore, the court said that amendment is a law under Article 13. Whereas in R.C. Kapoor versus Union of India, the Supreme Court has struck down with the Bank Nationalization Act 1969 because of the compensation element of the enactment, while upholding the right of the Parliament to nationalize the bank. The government then attempted to abolish privy purses, which were payments promised to the erstwhile princes of by the Indian government at the time of independence. In Madhav Rao Shinde versus of India, the Supreme Court has struck down with the presidential power. Also, the issues which were raised in the case were whether the constitutional amendment as per Article 368 are applicable to fundamental rights also. According to the learned judge, Part 3rd and 4th of the Constitution, that is, fundamental rights and directive principles, must be balanced and harmonized, which forms the basic element of the Constitution which cannot be amended. The word amendment under Article 368 are used in such a manner which the power of the parliament to amend the constitution, but they can amend in such a way which cannot destroy or damage the basic structure of the constitution. And the basic structure here is our fundamental rights conferred in part 3rd. Thus, it's a visible limitation imposed on the power of parliament to abolish or alter the foundation of the constitution. Second issue was whether 24th Amendment Act 1971 is valid. The 24th Amendment was effected to abolish the Supreme Court ruling in Golaknath case. The court pronounced its ruling by a majority of 6:5 judges. The respected court held that an amendment of the constitution is a legislature process and that the amendment under law related under Article 13 of the constitution, and therefore if an amendment alters, takes away or abolished any of the fundamental right mentioned under part 3rd of the Indian Constitution would be held void. Issue 3rd was whether Section 2 Clause A and Section 2 Clause B and Section 3 of the 25th Amendment 1971 is valid. The court upheld that Section 2 Clause A and Section 2 Clause B and the first part of the Section 3rd of the 25th Amendment are valid. However, the second part, namely, and no law containing a declaration that it is for giving effect to such policy shall be called in question in any court on the ground that it does not give effect to such policy was declared unconstitutional. The fourth issue which was raised in the case was whether 29th Amendment Act 1971 is valid. The Supreme Court therefore upheld the validity of 29th Amendment Act 1971. Also, if we move toward the further issue, which was whether the Article 31 of the Constitution is valid or not, the majority of the judges related to the matter of Article 31C of the Constitution, which was added by the 25th Amendment, is void, whereas Justice Reddy stated that the parts of the Article 31C is valid. However, Justice Khanna held that first part of the Article 31C was valid, whereas the second part was void. Whereas the sixth issue which was raised in the what constituted the basic structure in Keshwananda Bharati, and was there a ratio? It is difficult to say that the judges have delivered their decisions with majority view in Keshwananda Bharati case, agreed with each other on what constituted the basic structure of the constitution or why parliament has limited power to amend the basic fundamental principles of the constitution. What were the effect of this case? Keshwananda Bharati case was overruled the Golaknath case, but it did not re-establish the supremacy of the parliament, as it is stated that the fundamental rights of the constitution cannot be amended by the parliament, but not all the rights of the constitution. It is an example of judicial creativity of the first order. Significance of this doctrine: the ambiguity shows in the doctrine as well as that of ratio in Keshwananda Bharati case resulted in various challenges both to under the doctrine before the Supreme Court. The period following Keshwananda Bharati was one where the doctrine has evolved on case-to-case basis, resulting in a gradual expansion of the doctrine. Whereas the verdict here is the 703 pages judgment revealed the different opinions of the judges. There are wavered in majority of 7/6, and it was held that parliament could amend any part of the Indian constitution so long as it did not alter or amend, abridge the basic structure or essential features of the foundation of the Constitution. This was the inherent and implied limitation on the amending power of the Parliament. That's all for today's presentation. I hope you liked it. Thank you and have a great day.